Hello everyone, Oregon Moto John. We just put a new rear shock on this bike and we want to set sag. Even if I hadn't put a rear shock on, it never hurts to check sag just to see where you're flying. And I found this Slacker digital scale to be super helpful. I've used it on my KTMs, my Husky, other bikes that I've had to see where I'm flying. This is the old one. I've had this one 4 or 5 years. They have which uses this digital readout up here. But the one I had, they have a new one now that's Bluetooth that could hook up to your phone, which is even cooler. But this one doesn't do that, but it's certainly easier. Most of the time when I'm doing this, I'm by myself, and without another person, it's easier to use this, I find. So I highly recommend it. On this particular bike, we're supposed to have around, we want 30 to 35% of race or rider sag, and then free sag, and that's when I'm on the bike sitting with gear and so forth. And then we want free sag, which is just the weight of the bike. You want it to be around 10%. So let's see where we fall. Let's check free sag first. So for this bike, the total travel for the 300L, for the Rally it may be different. I'm sure it is different, but for this bike, it's roughly 259 millimeters of travel, and we want roughly 10% for free sag, just the weight of the bike on the suspension, which would put us around 25.9 or so. Some people say for the 300, anywhere from 30 to 50 millimeters of free sag is about right. So anyway, safe to say we want roughly 26 to 50 millimeters of free sag. So to do that, I can use my side stand and I can lift up on the rear of the bike to get the suspension all the way opened up. I don't want any weight on that back wheel. So when I do that, look how handy this is. I bolted this up here. I'm lifting up on this back fender until I feel the back wheel suspension kind of bottom out. It kind of goes, and so there I have it zeroed out. And what I did to do that is I lifted that up and then I just hit this button and it zeroed it out. Okay, so now I'm putting the weight of the bike back on it. All I got to do is put the bike to center, lifting it off the stand, and then I can read it out down here. It says I'm at 56 millimeters, or I can come up here, which is 56 millimeters. So again, this is just the weight of the bike on the suspension at this point. So when I set this bike on a side stand, you can see how that opens up a little bit. Okay, like 21 millimeters, and then that's just being on the side stand. If I lift on the back of this fender, I can get it back to zero. Okay, if it weren't at zero with the weight, my back wheel is off the ground right now because I'm using the side stand to do that. So we're off a little bit. I mean, we're not even close to the the 50. If 10% would be roughly at that 25, 26. So even if we were really generous with saying this to 30 to 50 millimeters of free sag, we're outside of that. So we know we need to tighten the preload on that. And then rider sag should be 30 to 50% of the total travel. And we'll calculate that next. But just based on free sag, I would need to, screw down that spring, and you can see there's lots of adjustment, lots of threads. There's the YSS suspension on this rear shock, and we just loosen up this little Allen screw here, and then we would tighten this adjuster clockwise. So rider sag should be 30 to 35% of my total travel of 259 millimeters, and I think that's like around, when I calculated it, 78 to 90 millimeters of travel with race sag when I'm sitting on the bike. So if I put this kickstand up, and you usually need something nearby to stand on, this is where another person can be helpful, and I get on this bike, and I sit on it, you can see I'm up to 110, bounce up and down a few times. I'm up to, you want to sit up near the tank. Don't want to fall over. Okay, so I'm definitely over that at the top end, 90. So everything's telling me I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. And I like things soft, so I'm going to go at the top end of all these adjustments. So let's tighten down that preload on that spring a little bit. So you could also do this with a ruler, measuring from this point to that point, and it works just fine. It would just take a little more math. This is just a little quicker. So you can use a ruler, and certainly Google ways to do that using a ruler. Nothing wrong with that. They make rulers specifically for this. But I've gotten so much use out of this chain slacker between my bike and other bikes that I can't imagine going without it now. So I'm going to loosen up this Allen key here, and then we'll just tighten down that preload. And the YSS shock comes with this little device that you would just stick in here, and you know, we can put that in there, and then you can turn that down. I've had good luck of getting preload off the rear wheel and then turning the spring to tighten that, so we'll see what works best. And it always helps to spritz a little WD-40 on here before you start making your adjustments, just so this turns easier. That always is the right thing. I get it on the spring too to help that rotate. There we go. Okay, so we got our little wrench in here like so, and we're just gonna start turning that down. And it's gonna have to be small increments. And we're just gonna turn that down. I'm gonna try a half turn to a full turn, and then we'll recheck with our slacker tool. I got an initial turn out of it, but then I hit the frame with the bar, and I went to the other side, and the exhaust is in the way, and I don't want to remove the exhaust to do this, so I'm getting my Motion Pro tool with the little copper tip on here, and I'm just going to turn that till I can get back on it again with the proper tool. And I'm just going to angle this like so, then I'll lightly tap the end of that. Okay, now I'm back to where this lockdown Allen key is there again. So I've done one full revolution, which is pretty easy. And now I'm gonna actually recheck my slack, or recheck my rider sag and free bite sag and rider sag with the slacker tool. So rider sag, I lift the bike up on the side stand. There it is, still zeroed out. Gonna tip the bike to its side, put the kickstand up. And now the weight of the bike is still about 50. Okay, we got it a little closer. I'll bounce it up and down a few times, see where we go. Okay, we're right around 50. Okay, we could probably tighten it a little more, but I want to check my rider sag while I've got it here, see what I changed, if I changed it very much. So that did tighten it up. Now we're about at 102 for rider sag with my weight on it. So I'm bouncing up and down on the foot pegs. I get about 96. When I sit up near the tank, you don't want to sit way back. I was able to do it standing when I didn't have the phone in my hand and I could balance, but about at 96, so we're going to go 94, 96. So I'm going to go with that for right now and write it, and then we'll see. I'm at the top end of softness, you could say, but we're going to go with this for now. So this bike's just going to be for lighter use. I don't want the suspension firm, and this front hasn't been done yet either, so it's soft. I don't want to get the back real firm and then have a soft front fork. So I'd say for my purposes right now, 1 turn's plenty. I'm going to tighten back up this little Allen screw here so that this doesn't vibrate out and the preload doesn't change while I'm riding. And I'm going to just ride it. So that's what you do with this, is you ride it and you see how it feels. Then you can always tighten it up, tighten the preload up some more. And that's how you set sag. And what that does is it helps determine the attitude of the bike so that the bike isn't sitting, you know, with it too far cocked back towards the rear wheel or too far forward, which changes kind of the steering characteristics. So I've had really good luck with this tool. I mean, I didn't have anybody to help me today. I was able to set the rider sag and free sag of the bike, which is the bike sitting on just the weight of itself. And again, I'm at the what I'd call the top end of sag or softer end of the sag. You could go on the bottom end. I'm up more up to 50%. You want 30 to 50% of rider sag. I'm at around 50 of the total travel of the shock, and which in this case is around 259. And I'm also at the top end of free sag, or the soft end of free sag, which is the weight of the bike, at around 50 millimeters. And some say it should be anywhere from 30 to 50. You know, if we did a strict 10% of this bike, it would be, you know, 26 millimeters roughly, but that would tend to make the bike a little stiffer. So I'm going to go with this and see how it feels. And generally, that's how you set sag with this slacker tool, Mototool slacker, digital slacker tool. And again, I've had this for many years, and I've used it a bunch of times with different bikes, and it's worked really, really well. And I'm no way affiliated with it. I'm just a guy who works out of his garage and his own bikes, and I found this to be super helpful. But you could use a ruler. You just need a piece of paper, and you just need to do a little math. The beauty of when you adjust your suspension, you know, I've kept track of what I did today, so if I needed to put this back, I can. And I've made notes on what my free slack was today, or my free sag, and my rider sag was, or race sag, so I know kind of where I'm at. And I could just, if I don't like it, it feels too firm, I could go out a turn, take me back to where I was. If I want a little firmer, I go in another half turn to a full turn. It's just really not hard to do. So I hope this helps. I'll do a little ride and come back and report. But this is generally how you set the sag on pretty much any bike. It might be different, slightly different parts, but you know, on how you loosen the preload ring. But some have a ring that just screws down. Some have a little Allen key like this one. KTM has an Allen key where you loosen up a plastic adjuster above the preload ring, and then you tighten the ring. But they all, you know, work a similar way. Hope this is useful, and hope you're all doing well. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the ride. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll be doing other improvements to this bike, as well as some of my other bikes that are KTM and Huskies. I just like motorcycles, and it's fun to work on them. Things we have coming on this is a rear rack. Camel rear rack's going to go on. I have a tidy tail that I have good intentions of putting on. We'll probably swap out the tires on this at some point to something a little different. And I do have plans to add a temperature gauge to this. Shouldn't be hard to do, just since the dash doesn't have a temperature readout. I kind of like to know what temperature my engine's running. So just a few things down the road. Take care, keep riding, and seize the day. So here's where a quick ride matters. I took the bike out for a quick little ride, went over some bumps and different terrain, and it felt, compared to the old suspension, which was crazy soft, it felt firm, not overly firm. So I went ahead and put the preload back to where it was. I backed it out 1 turn, rewrote it, and it felt better. So sometimes, even where it should be, sometimes you have to go with what feels the best. So I'm going to soften a bike now. So I softened the suspension up 1 turn out, back to where it was. But that's, I think, because the stock shock was so soft, I'm used to that. So I'm going to do this as a midpoint, just putting the shock on. YSS says that the preload and everything's adjusted from the factory. You know, they're getting it in the right ballpark. So I'm going to go with that. Of course, they don't know everybody's weight and everything. And I'm around 190 pounds, so give or take a little bit. So anyway, we're going to go with that for now. I'm going to ride it. I'm going to go hit some washboard and see how the bike feels. If I were going to be doing jumps, big jumps and things, then I'd probably go with the setting that I had it at. But without the front spring in yet, it makes the, right now if you adjust it on the soft end, the front fork feels pretty good. But if I were to firm up the back end, it's going to push harder on the front fork and it's going to change things there. So I'm going to leave it the way it is for now. Okay, as you can tell from all the dust on the bike, I just got back from a quick ride on a little bit of pavement, a lot of gravel roads, mainly gravel roads, a little bit of single track, and the suspension works better. I like it. It doesn't bounce around, doesn't pogo stick over washboard anymore. It feels more controlled on single track. I question if I'll do anything to the front fork for a while. It feels better on the pavement because I'm not so low, riding so low in the stroke. Or changing the fork angle when I'm riding on pavement. You know, having the back end so settled down so low. It felt good. Now, the thing is, if you're 150, 160, 170 pounds, you may not need to worry about it. Maybe you just ride it. I think it'd be okay, but with me, 190, give or take a little bit, it just kind of, especially the washboard where it would pogo stick up and down, the YSS suspension helped prevent that pogo sticking that the OEM suspension was doing. Here's the shock that I put in, and it didn't have the reservoir like that. At least the one I bought didn't. Let's see what we got here. I got the ALLROADS one for 155 to 187 pounds. CRF 300L. That's what I got. They have one that's for, you know, more like a track, and but I wanted something that just was a little easier sprung. So there you have it. Hope this helps. And I also posted up gonna make a video of riding that washboard and single track with the new shock, so you can see what that actually looks like, and I'll kind of talk through that. All right, hope this helps and that you're having a good day. We'll see you again soon. Keep riding.